Overwatch 2 just extended the ongoing 6 vs 6 test, since it apparently is still very popular. But what does that mean for the future of 6 vs 6? Let's have a look. Last Tuesday, the first phase of the 6 vs 6 test that Overwatch 2 has been running in the last 2 weeks was supposed to come to an end. But as that end approaches, Aaron Keller, the game director for Overwatch, took to Twitter and shared that they'll be extending this phase of the test due to continued player interest and excitement for the mode. In other words, we seem to like it. Now, they are extending the test till mid-season, which I still think is happening next week or the week after that. After which we'll be rolling into the second phase of the test. As a reminder, this first phase is 2-2-2, aka roll queue. The next phase is going to be min 1, max 3. So you have to have at least 1 player in every role, but you can have the max of 3 in a 6 vs 6 setup. Now, some players have voiced their concerns about this second phase of testing. They are worried that we're going to be locked into one single meta. And they might be right. Who knows? But I do think we need to give it an honest try. 2-2-2 also comes with its own issues. And if we truly want the best for Overwatch, we need to try all of these tests. Not just the ones we think are going to work, because we have been wrong before. Another thing that some members of the community seem to be upset with is that while they extended the test, they did move it to the arcade. Now, I can understand why some people have questions about that. It is a bit of an odd choice. And I can't think of a really good reason to do so. Except maybe that they plan to add something else in that spot in the coming days. It could be the next phase of Classic, but I do think they're going to wait till the mid-season patch to kick that off. Maybe they want to add some friction to this test to see how many players purposely will go to the arcade to play the mode, instead of just clicking on Unranked and thinking, why not? It is the thing in UX. It could also just be them testing if it works in the arcade, if we enjoy that. Because if they could put it in the arcade in the end, it would make a lot of things easier for them. But I don't think that is going to fly. There's even people that want the competitive 6 vs 6 back now. But to be honest, I think the reason why they moved it to the arcade is way more simple, less complicated than anything I just listed. Could be anything technical, organizational, timing-wise, I don't know. It could be anything. What it definitely is not is them trying to lower the interest artificially, because they are angry that it is so popular. All those kinds of theories I've seen out there. If they didn't want us to play it, if they wanted to downplay all of it, they would just have stopped the test. And they wouldn't have told us in a tweet that it was popular and that we were interested in it. Wouldn't make any sense. That's like telling someone that you're going to pickpocket them. You're going to get punched in the face. Look, you might not agree with everything that Team 4 does, but they're not a group of villains that are set out to annoy us. They are human, very passionate about the game, and they want to make something that we enjoy. No matter how many comments you're going to put under this video. So if we want 6 vs 6, they're going to give us 6 vs 6. But is that going to happen? Is the demand, the interest in the mode really that high? Well, look, that tweet that Aaron sent out, it is telling. Yet it is not. Because we do not know what their threshold is, at which point they feel like there is enough interest. How popular it needs to be for them to decide to add it back to the game. That being said, I do think we hit that threshold, no matter what it is. I think this is one of the most popular tests they've done ever. I just don't have the numbers to back it up. I'm hoping that we'll get to see those in a few weeks. But look, personally, I've always been of the opinion that I do not care if we're going to be playing either 5 vs 5 or 6 vs 6. I like them both. But since that test came out, I've been mostly playing 6 vs 6. Partly because of my job. I mean, it is important to know what I'm talking about. But also because it was different. It was fun. Yeah, I know we played it over 6 years before Overwatch 2 released, but a lot has changed in Overwatch. It is a different 6 vs 6 experience. And it is also kind of fun to be playing with 2 tanks. On the other hand, I've also noticed a little more pressure on my frame rate at times. And when I queue up in a group, the queue times can get a little lengthy. But when I play off stream in a flex role solo, not that much of an issue. Overall, it's been fun. Way more fun than I expected it to be. And I know that I'm not the only one that thinks so. A lot of you have told me so. And like I said, some people are even asking for a competitive version of this mode, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. But I am convinced that 6 vs 6 is here to stay, or to come back at some point soon. In which shape and form, that is something they're going to decide after that second test is done. They might already be thinking and talking about it internally, but I don't think they're ready to commit to anything and share the details before spring. I think we're going to hear more about this mid-season 15. That being said, I also also think 5 versus 5 is going to stick around. Because for every single person that is very passionate about 6 versus 6, there's also a more quiet person that really appreciates 5 versus 5 and would rather keep playing that. And on top of that, there's people like myself that like playing both of them. The thing is, managing all of that is going to be the biggest challenge. Now, don't get me wrong, I think there's plenty of people to fill both modes. No matter what people have been telling us, there's still enough people playing Overwatch to not impact the queues. The queues in Overwatch have never been impacted by the amount of people playing the game, but rather by the division of the different roles. Now, their biggest challenge is going to be the balancing of all these heroes for these different modes. Balancing for 2 setups, especially if both will be getting a competitive version. And you know what? It's not even the balancing itself that is the biggest issue. They can do that, it's the job. But how do you explain that to players? Why is this hero behaving differently in this mode versus the other one? How do you make all of that into a consistent experience, especially for newer players? That is not going to be easy. I mean, in some games, like in MMOs, it's quite common to see variations in the abilities and the impact of your hero depending on the circumstances. If you're playing PvP versus PvE, if you're doing a raid, if you're doing a dungeon, MMO players are kind of used to that. For shooters, that is definitely not the case. I do think, however, that it is manageable. This is a UX and a UI challenge that they can take. They need to communicate to players what to expect when playing a certain role and a certain hero. And you need to be reminded of that throughout the whole match. You need to really feel the difference between 5 versus 5 and 6 versus 6. And there are a lot of fun ways of doing that. So let's see what they come up with in the coming months. But tell me, have you been playing a lot of 6 versus 6? And do you want it to stick around? Let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons. I could not make these videos without you guys. You have my eternal gratitude. You too can become part of the Omnic Post family over on patreon.com/theomnicpost. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be back with a new video very soon. Till then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.